Hello and welcome to Just Africa, the program where we take a critical, thoughtful, and investigative look at issues shaping our continent. Today's episode probes a relationship that continues to stir both hope and controversy. China's growing footprint in Africa across ports, highways, railways, and digital infrastructure. They are normally referred to as the dragon of the East Asia is leaving an indelible mark on the landscape of the African continent. But it is this relationship that we're built on mutual development and strategic partnership, or is it a modern version of economic colonialization, cloaked in the language of loans and investment? Is China a reliable partner helping African nations rise, or a shrewd investor exploiting vulnerabilities in the governance and debt management? Today, we dissect China's presence in Africa, its scale, its strategy, and its implications, from the Ethiopia's railway and Nigeria's airport terminals to Zambia's mining sector and Djibouti's military ports. We explore where the Beijing's involvement is a path to prosperity or a slippery slope in dependency. And to help us unpack this complex dynamics, we'll become three on this table just in a few moments. But before now, you just have myself and yours truly, Olumide. Good morning to you, Olumide.
Good morning, Priya. How are you doing?
Oh, very good. I'm great. So the question has been thrown to not just, it's not a rhetorical question anymore. It's thrown to everyone out there. China's footprint in Africa. Is it a strategic partnership, or is it an investment journey or conquest, or no, an investment, exploration, or is it a predatory loan? That's the question most people are asking. And in geopolitics, we cannot just look at the favorable disposition or the benevolent activities or the benevolent relationship that takes place between two nations. We must begin to look at both nations, who they are. What does China enjoy? What is China gaining from this relationship, either with Djibouti, either with Zambia, either with Nigeria, with South Africa, or with Kenya? Or what are these countries themselves gaining from China? Because there must be a give and take.
Yes.
But the thing is, there's this question that keeps nagging in the heart of many Nigerians and many Africans, and of course, those who are rivals of China's massive power in the globe, and especially its influence in Africa, if this relationship is balanced or is tilted towards one side.
Well, I think it's mutual. Now, for instance, if I want to buy electronics, I go to Alaba International. If I want to buy clothes, shoes, I come to Lagos Island or Mandilas and that. So China has the resources. They need the market. Where's the market? Africa. So it's a mutual. We need roads. We need infrastructure. We need all these things. China has the manpower. They have the resources. They have the technology.
Oh, we also have the manpower, if it's about manpower. Except you're talking about...
expatriates.
Okay.
They have it. So I think when you say benevolent, I was wondering, to me it's not. It's business. Because when you say benevolence, it's tilting towards sentiment. It's tilting towards someone is gaining from the other and the other person is not gaining. I think both of them are gaining in some way. But in the loan aspect, well, we all saw what happened. That it was last year when our plane was seized and all that. So to them, it's strictly business. It shouldn't have happened if our bilateral relationship was actually strong. They shouldn't have seized any of our airlines or planes, rather. So I think it's just business. It's strictly business. China is here to give us what we want. Even though we can actually do these things ourselves, even though we can actually, if we actually fund education, if education was well funded, we would get good engineers, good technicians, and all that to build good roads, to build all these things. It would just be a matter of getting the right investors come in. But, well, we'll get there.
Okay, so, I don't want to really see it as mutual. Okay, so there is a concept in geopolitics, and it is called balance of power. And yesterday, I watched the conversation in the Oval Office between the United States President Donald Trump and the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. And I wasn't really, with South Africa being, among the BRICS bloc and the BRICS conclave, I was thinking that they are going to just put off, a defiant front, because there was a printout that Trump had to show and give to the Cyril Ramaphosa that, look, white farmers, their lands are being expropriated from them and they are being killed on the spot. Some of them are being decapitated, and it's quite violent. And the relationship, and I saw the way the conversation was going, and I knew very well that Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa had learned from what happened in public glare between the Ukrainian president
and
Trump. So
Trump.
he was, I could see diplomacy at play, and how he was, he did a very good job. And the Minister of Agriculture, John, was from South Africa, who is equally a white person, actually really defended the South African government. I'm yet to see some of the agreements they reached, because some conversations, they perceived that it was too sensitive to have in public. So recently, when we look at Nigeria, you just referenced what happened between the Ogun State government and the Chinese authorities, where a plane was seized. Now, let's look at recent events where, because of the trade tariff war ongoing between the United States and China, some Nigerian athletes that were supposed to perform in China, because they came straight from the United States, they were banned from participating in that tournament, in that game. And the costs is just too much. If we're looking at China-Africa ties and the relationship, if you have problems, you have it with the United States of America, and you have good relationship with Nigerians. So we expect that even in the running and in the practice of geopolitics, there are some things to just defer to. You just it's not that you're turning a blind eye, but it comes with understanding. Because the Chinese have been criticized of exploiting and cutting away raw materials from the continent of Africa, not just Nigeria alone, from the continent of Africa. But on the other side, like you said, they are building infrastructure. But this infrastructure that they build in the country, it doesn't come for free. African countries pay. Most African countries are indebted to China. Is it Djibouti? Is it Zambia? Is it Kenya? Or is it Nigeria, popularly called the giant of Africa? We are paying.
There was a time, there was a rumor. It was a rumor, I guess it was a rumor, where we heard that there was a Chinese police station built in Nigeria. We heard that there was Chinese were seizing a particular country. They seized some certain asset of that particular country. To me, I just feel, yes, you said that, of course.
Kenya.
Yes. So it's just, that's why I say it's just business. There's no sentiment in business. There's no feelings. Business is business. You say you're going to bring something, I say I'm going to pay you. If we breach that agreement, it's the contract is off, the deal is off. I can do whatever I want, you can do whatever you want, because it's just business. I wouldn't say, oh, Priye has been my business partner for over 10 years. Let me give him
10 years.
Let me give him the benefit of doubt. Sentiment is, but business is business.
Sometimes business, over 10 years we've been business partners.
Yes.
It also states that there's this form of relationship that, had engendered trust between business partners. So there's a way you defer to some things and just allow the business relationship to continue, even if you turn a blind eye to a few things, which is not going to have consequence on the business relationship.
Let me refer you to what happened with Otedola and Tony Elumelu. You remember Otedola accused Tony Elumelu of, I think, sidelining him when he was trying to get a particular, I think it was Transcorp or something. Contract. There was a particular contract, yes. And he said Tony Elumelu, he discussed his plans.
The Forum on China-Africa Cooperation is the cornerstone on which this engagement is settled. Since its launch in 2000, it has served as a platform for defining long-term strategies and military and security cooperation. They are also, deepening this relationship. China has a military base in Djibouti. That's its first overseas military base, reflecting a strategic maritime interest in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. So is it an investment and development project? Let's take a look at this. China's investment spans infrastructure, energy, mining, telecommunication, and agriculture and technology. Some major examples include Ethiopia, which is the Addis Ababa-Djibouti Railway. It was financed by a Chinese company, or China itself, and it's a vital trade corridor. In Nigeria, China firms constructed the Abuja-Kaduna Railway, Lagos-Ibadan Railway, and parts of the airport terminals. In Kenya, the standard gauge railway from Mombasa to Nairobi is financed by Chinese loans worth $3 billion. In Angola, they received an estimated $25 billion in oil-backed loans from China. Infrastructure building followed after the civil war. Is it in Zambia? Major Chinese investments in copper, mines, roads, and energy. The allegations have emerged of Zambia risking control over state assets like power company ZESCO due to the debt defaults. South Africa, a BRICS partner, China has invested in industrial zones and telecommunications through firms like Huawei. Sudan and South Sudan, China National Petroleum Corporation is heavily involved in oil extraction and pipelines. Now, let's go to debt trap. Or is it a predatory lending narrative? That's just a question. Now, critics argue that China's concessional loans from, comes with strings attached, often lacking transparency and leading to debt distress. Sri Lanka's Hambantota port is often cited as a cautionary tale. Some African observers fear similar outcomes. In Zambia, concerns have arisen over undisclosed loan agreements and the alleged threat of asset seizure in case of default. Kenya's debt to China for the standard gauge railway has raised fears of financial overreach and underutilization. However, defendants of the Chinese model argue that African countries voluntarily signed these agreements. One of them is Olumide. So many Western institutions failed to invest at the scale of the speed that China did of the much debt and the concessional and often restructured when needed. Intelligent questions need to be asked in this. Now you can see China's footprint all over Africa.
Yes.
But you see, there's this question like, China, are they going into this for, altruistic purposes? Or they stand to exploit these countries because they feel, if you look at Africa very well, African countries are indebted to the World Bank, they're indebted to the IMF, and they are indebted to other multilateral organizations, including the African Development Bank and including commercial banks within the country. And some of the method that they used to take money from commercial banks or maybe from the central banks within the country is through the ways and means. And they've been suggesting that since the dollar price has been falling. That's in the case of Nigeria. Now you look at the footprints China is having in Africa. So one would want to ask, is it altruistic? But you were saying that it's not people just go into business because they want to be altruistic and objective. So if that's the case, China, do they have ulterior motives? And if they have ulterior motives, can we say they are different from the World Bank or other Western countries?
All right, you said they have footprints. You say they are being, you might, okay, it's not you saying it, but you're saying experts are saying that they are altruistic. But let's look at the results they have brought to Africa. Improved infrastructure and faster urban development. Access to funding where Western organizations or institutions said no. Now, job creation, yes, although that scale is, it's tilted to the other way. We also have, a sense of economic dependence, no more IMF and all that. But the major thing is that China often gets things done quickly. Now, that speed is a game changer for Africa, because if you look at, say, in Nigeria, for instance, now, to construct a road, you have to get approvals, you have to defend the budget, you have to do this. But China, when China comes in, they get the job done. But the question now is, African leaders, are they negotiating smartly? How are they negotiating? Are they just, just like you rightly said, there are some contracts that you will sign. China would have to take some of your resources. Raw materials.
Solid minerals.
So now, to me, that is not, well, it depends on the country. But it sounds like a contract that was not negotiated in good faith, because it's supposed to be, it could be concessional, whereby they pay in a long period of time. But taking away raw materials, it's like you're selling your, what's that word? You're selling your birthright.
But the countries, some African countries, most African countries, most of the time do not have most of the capital, most of the infrastructure that they use the Chinese loans to build are not capital in the sense that they're going to generate more fund. So, and if they are going to pay back that loan, where are they going to source it from, including the fact that the profits of those loans kept soaring. So the argument or the criticism against China at this moment in time is that the loans are being used for wrong purposes, or they are being used for intentions or purposes that would not, bring back, recoup the money to pay China. The loan. So China stands a better chance of we can take over your port facility and we operate it for over 10 years, so we can recoup back our money and pay back our loan. Then leave the land.
If I lend you money and you use it to do what you are not supposed to do, should I take the blame? If Nigeria...
They built the roads. China built those roads that... some of these roads and some of these railway stations that are not bringing back profits to the government.
So, should China get blamed for that? If Nigeria says, oh, we're going to acquire a certain loan and we're going to use it to build certain infrastructures that are supposed to generate income or profit back to the government, and it does not, should China take the blame? They have given you that loan. They have done every other thing. You have signed the contract. Yes, they say the devil is in the details. Most contracts, there are loopholes which will favor the person who is actually lending you the money and all that. But that's another story for another day. But should China be blamed for that? They have brought in infrastructure. They have done so many things in Africa, even though I still say Africans can actually do it, but maybe they don't have the technological know-how, the education, the resources, the right resources or manpower to get those things done. And Chinese come and do it faster. They do it faster than the country would actually do it. Should they get blamed for that? Yes, there are some bureaucracies, there are some political innuendos and all that involved in that. But it all depends on bilateral relations. And, that is why they were able to seize our airline in their country and all that. Now, you wonder, if we had good... Okay, let's take for example. Do you think Chinese would have actually seized a U.S. plane?
Well, if push comes to shove, they might. But at the moment, it looks like a lot of countries are giving planes to the United States.
Even if they are going to do that, it means they are ready for whatever consequences, whatever retaliatory measures U.S. will bring. But
I don't think they will even get to that. They want.
So why Africans? Why is it happening in Africa?
Okay, so
are we actually negotiating right? Do we have strong bilateral relationship? Are we actually, it's a whole lot.
If it's strictly and basically business, then we also have to treat some Chinese officials and some Chinese companies whenever they come to Nigeria or they go to any other African country and they abuse the laws of the land. And the reason why I'm saying that is sometimes these loans are given by China to African countries or to Nigeria, and they're getting paid back in raw materials, in crude oil.
Yes.
In Djibouti, China already has a military base there, and they are building a strong navy that they are going to, and that's their first external and overseas military base. Recently, China was talking to, apologized to Nigeria for the way they prevented our athletes from coming over and all of that, and that they are not, it is not in bad faith. It is because it was as a result of the tensions, the trade war between China and the United States. However, you have denied Nigerians, not just only denying that, they're also saying that they are going to support Nigeria when it comes to agriculture and when it comes to the Nigerian military in tackling insecurity in the country, that they are going to offer a collaborative effort and support in terms of training and all of that. I'm sure that some other agreement or conditions will be on the table.
Definitely.
But if I know Nigeria is wise, if we did not allow the United States to come and establish their boots on the ground of Africa, in the ground of Nigeria and our soil, I don't think we want to defer to China to doing that. However, when we have promises come in form of military training to be able to overcome the banditry and the terrorism menace that we're facing in the country.
But the U.S. offered at a point, I think it was during former President Muhammadu Buhari, the U.S. offered military support. I don't know how that deal went. But, well, continue.
All right. So we're going to break briefly, and this time we're bringing you Cashcraft. When we come back from Cashcraft, we'll have someone, the third person, joining us on the conversation this morning. To stay with us.
Welcome to Cashcraft, where we uncover the gold in every enterprise. Today, we explore a buzzing opportunity that is sweet, sustainable, and seriously profitable: beekeeping and honey production. Nigeria's honey demand is rising, but supply still falls short, creating a lucrative gap in the market. Beekeeping is a low-capital agribusiness with high returns, especially when done organically. From honey to beeswax, propolis to royal jelly, every part of the hive has commercial value. Imagine this: low startup, high yield, a beginner-friendly venture with starter kits costing 50,000 naira to 150,000 naira and profit margins above 60% after the first harvest. That is very possible. Also, are you thinking climate advantage? Nigeria's tropical vegetation and long flowering seasons make it ideal for beekeeping almost year-round. So you know that's a good business to venture into. Now let's look at health and organic market boom. Natural unadulterated honey is in high demand. This demand kept increasing on a daily basis, not just locally but across West Africa and international markets. And it is used for different purposes, from health to skincare, culinary, and more. You may need further research, professional advice to understand exactly what I am talking about. Now, value chain potential. Processing and packaging honey, producing beeswax candles, selling hives, or even offering training is the way to go. Do not miss out. Just so you know, this is a climate-smart, gender-inclusive business that doesn't require owning a land or intensive labor. Here is how to take advantage. Start small with training and support. Enroll in the basic beekeeping course. Many NGOs, agricultural institutions, and cooperatives offer short-term hands-on training. Join a cooperative to access shared equipment, farmland, and easier entry into the market. Invest in starter kits. Begin with 1 or 2 hives. Starter kits typically include protective gears, a smoker, hive tools, and a bee colony, all you need to get started. Explore the full value chain. Process and bottle raw honey for local or boutique markets. Create value-added products such as beeswax candles, lip balm, soap, and natural polish. Build and sell beehives or rent them to farms for pollination services. Offer training and mentorship as your experience grows. Target empowerment opportunities. That's very key. Many donor-funded projects now support climate-smart land-light ventures like beekeeping, making it ideal for women and youth with limited capital but strong entrepreneurial drive. From the wild to the wallet, beekeeping is more than a craft. It's a golden opportunity. With the right training and tools, you can turn nature's sweetest gift into your next source of steady income. And you know what? You don't need to think twice. If you want to go into it, take that decision now and get started. I am Grace Komalafe, and this is Cashcraft. I'll see you again some other time. Bye.
Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program. It's Just Africa. We are talking about ties between China and Africa. Is it strategic partnership, investment, or predatory loan? We've been looking at that. I think whilst we are considering that there's a potential, or it's not just a potential, it's a reality that is strategic partnership, and China is really planting its footprints across Africa. We also believe that this fosters investment between both Africa and China. However, it's very, very hard to be dismissive about the last word, predatory lending, because some activities have happened and we cannot completely undermine that predatory lending. We have Chuks, John Roger-Chuks, who is joining us on the table for us to continue the conversation. Chuks, strategic partnership, investment, or predatory lending? Or do we say all of them are actively involved? All these.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Olumide. And to everyone out there, good morning and welcome to another beautiful time on Just Africa. China is just like a farmer. You go to the farm to plant your crop and you hope to harvest. So in turn, what do? You try and make the soil fertile. Put in some fertilizer, till it, weed it.
Proverbs, too many proverbs. Speaking plain terms.
That's what we have. Now, it now depends on, for countries, when nations go for, be it business, be it diplomatic, be it whatever form of relationship, personal interest comes first. It now depends on the other side. Are we putting country first, or we are putting personal interests of individuals, not nations first? This is where we get to see a lot of issues come up when it comes to China investment or loans. China is Africa's biggest trade partner, 16 years on a row.
16 years.
16 good years.
That's a very short period of time to plant your footprint in a continent the way they did.
And they didn't come, they came with full force. They saw the opportunity and they came. Now, let's go back. Africa is just like someone who saw a snake in the night and had to run. Anytime you see even a rope, you think it's a snake. That's where we are right now. We have been dealt the bad side of investment and looting from before colonialism and those who went into partnership after colonialism. So let's not call the West. But you understand where we are going to. Yes. So right now, for most other business or investment or people that come to collaborate with us, our mind go back to our first husband. How did they treat us? China has come into Africa and several countries have benefited. several countries are not well off because of the investments in China, because of the loans they took from China. But that is their issue, not China's issue.
All right.
Let's start from there.
Thank you very much. Critics have accused China of debt trap diplomacy. Do you believe African countries have been strategically disadvantaged in these deals?
Now, for our first husbands had that as a plan, and they came out directly to execute that, which they are still doing, still ongoing. Now, when you see an opportunity, you go for it. Okay, let's put this in figures. Top 5 destination of Chinese foreign direct investments. You have South Africa, you have Niger Republic, that is our neighbor here, you have Angola, you have Morocco, you have Congo. Now, what do these people have in common? Solid minerals. So China needs factories to run. They need power for those factories. They need other minerals to produce, and they see these people have it. So they go and invest there. This is now direct investment, not loans. Now, if you see that, okay, we need money for development and we can get it from China, how do you negotiate? This is where the issue is from. You that is collecting the money, how are you negotiating on behalf of your own people? And China has this policy. For most loans they are giving you, it comes with building. It comes with construction. If they are giving you a loan for, let's say, a rail, across Africa, you get to see that majorly they build those particular infrastructure. That's why you see a lot of the infrastructure being built now in Africa, kudos, thanks to China, but most of them are on loan basis. Some they build for free, waiting that tomorrow they will do business that will pay for those particular loans. So who is negotiating these loans on behalf of their nations in Africa? These are the people we should hold responsible.
Okay, so one other aspect that we should be looking at, China being a very, very wise, well, I'll call them experienced country when it comes to business and international trade, including geopolitics. You see, they've studied the continent of Africa and how this continent had been perpetually indebted to the World Bank, the IMF, and other multinational organizations, including the Western countries, and they've not been able to pay back. China is well aware that the loans they are, giving out to African countries, there is no way they'll be able to go into business or to turn around that money to make profit, to pay back China the loans and to equally pay back the profit, even if some of these loans are going to even start counting 5 years after they've given out the loans. In this case, China is aware of the capacity of these countries, but they went ahead and they know. So is that not an form of entrapment? If you look, Djibouti, they defaulted. China went there and they built a military base. Why must it be a military base? Why can't you just operate one of the state-owned assets so that you can recoup back how will the military base bring money back to your country? That looks like state capture.
Okay, if you see it as state capture, okay, now let's look at it. Let's look at it from this other aspect. It's all about regional dominance. Regional dominance is economic dominance, and if you see what's been happening in the West, Europe, Russia, then China is coming to play. Now, before now, China stayed on their side. Pre-World War II, post-World War II, China was on their own. Now they started reaching out. The Chinese military were not going out that much before, after World War II, thanks to what happened during World War II. Then they now joined UN forces. Then they now joined peacekeeping forces. Then they now saw that, okay, good, we need our footprint outside Asia to be able to have that dominance and be able to match up the US, to be specific. Now, US had military bases scattered all over the place, both for the good and both for the bad. Now, China needed to get to Africa. And Djibouti just happened to make it very easy. Now, they built a port for you. You took a loan and they built a port for you. There were clauses when you took that particular loan. That's for Djibouti. Well, they also had their intention, we need to go out. Okay, good and fine. Djibouti gave them that opportunity. Yes, okay, over a period of time, we will recoup our money. It's still your port, but we'll get to operate it. But you are just talking about the Djibouti port. There are well over 231 ports, commercial ports, built by China in Africa. That's a third of African commercial ports. China has a footprint in them. Even here in Nigeria, not far from us here. So they know exactly what they are doing. It's business, but now for you that is negotiating, what are you negotiating?
Okay, so I think it's beyond business. And those who are signing the contract, those who are, making the contract are very much well aware. It depends on the strategic, if it is the nation's interest from the continent of Africa, the question is it on behalf of the nation's interest that the African leaders are pending their signature to those agreements? Or is it just, let me just do it, spend my 8 years or whatever time I have in office and just get out? It's going to be someone else's business to take care of. Because some of the governments in Africa that goes to collect loans, they knew very well the maximum time they have as democratically elected presidents in those countries is 8 years. And they know that they cannot pay back that loan in the next 15, 20, 25 years. And they take those loans, and there are no plans. There's no strategy, there's no objective in place to really invest those loans to recoup back money to pay back China or to pay back their debtors. And China has come to the place where we feel, it's none of our business. You take care of your problem. We are coming in and we are just business-minded. Because sometimes, if we are not just business, if politics is involved, then I expect China to sometimes defer to some of these countries in case.
Yes,
look at South Africa.
For some, they do.
South Africa is owing China, and they are all both in BRICS.
So it doesn't.
Because you plant and they know in the concept of balance of power, some of these countries that they are owing can reach out to the arch rivals of China.
Okay, China,
and through which they can pay back the Chinese loan and be indebted to that country. And do you know what China will lose? Yes, if Djibouti...
Right now, you're speaking like a big brother that is an African.
No, of course. Let's assume we know how much Nigeria is owing. Kenya is owing. South Africa is owing. Mm-hmm. This is not the concept of balance of power. It looks like they've grabbed us at the jugular. So what are we going to do? It is easy to get Chinese footprint out of Africa. Because they will go to the United States and go to other and say, okay, look, pay back the loan, we'll be indebted to you. China is going to lose a relationship. China is going to lose political allies in Africa. Okay. And China is going to lose strong allies that is going to remove their footprint. And in that particular case, they will be losing.
Look at it from this angle.
Very big, more than money.
Look at it from this angle. You can point to Chinese loans in Africa. You can just turn and say, okay, that is Chinese loan.
Okay. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
This is Chinese. I don't know if you understand. This is Chinese loan. Okay, that other one is Chinese loan. You can literally look facilitated by Chinese loans. Now, can you do the same for IMF loans? Can you do the same for World Bank loans? Can you do the same for loans that come from the West? So this is a great difference. I don't know if you understand. Then now, for a lot of Chinese loans, they also write off. Mind you, they do. They also write off. Now, now, allegedly, they are not like a lot of the facilitated loans that come from the Bretton Woods organizations that know very well that they are giving this particular loan for a project that is not tangible. You don't see a lot of that coming from China. Mostly, you don't even see it coming from China. They don't do that. Now, they are not just there for giving you loans. They are here to trade. A lot of the loans they give, a lot of the construction of infrastructure they build, they are building with something in mind.
Okay.
What is it called? The Silk Road Initiative. That has been before we even got colonized, and they are fixing that back. All the trade route from China through the West down to Africa they are following that path and getting that road and belt initiative back. So most of the places where you see them drop loans or build infrastructure, they want trade partners because somebody needs to buy product. This is where Africa should put its foot down and start talking. What do we send to China mostly? The biggest importer China has is Congo. What is Congo producing? Solid minerals, primary product.
Okay.
Yes,
I do.
So now, we should go beyond giving them primary product. This is where Africa should now start talking. This is where Africa should now start bringing that power. We should go beyond just letting China say, okay, good. We are exploring, by the way, when you look at nations that they do direct business with, South Africa, Nigeria is still back. But a lot of these places are all majorly solid mineral aside South Africa. But now, how can we come to the market?
China
also have some trade deficits.
All right, looking at transparency, to what extent do you think Chinese projects in Africa are transparent? Secondly, I'm sure you're well aware of this rumor, I think that was last year or 2 years, that it said that with the debt Nigeria is owing, each Nigerian is owing over 100,000.
That was the general debt.
400,000.
Each Nigerian, right?
Yes.
So, do you think now should citizens be more informed about the terms and conditions of every loan Nigerian goes into or collects?
Definitely. If this is where citizenship diplomacy comes to play. We just wake up and go to sleep. We elect Olumide and say, okay, we'll hand over the realms of power to Olumide and we go and sleep. Then tomorrow we wake up and start complaining. Because we're not watching what the people we put in power are doing. We're not holding them accountable or responsible to what we've handed over to them. They are supposed to be accountable to us, not we worshiping them. These are what we miss down here. So whatever decision they make, now we have people in the National Assembly that has to make sure that it's passed and agreed. And even if we refuse and don't agree what the National Assembly is doing, we have every right to say no and make our voices heard. But most times we just keep quiet and say, okay, it's his turn. When he finishes his turn, we'll look, okay, it will now come to our own turn. There once was a talk about anybody in power, if you take a loan, you pay it back in your administration. In your administration. But that did not see the light of the day. Which will do us better good. If you decide to say, okay, good, I'm going to spend 4 years, I'm going to take a loan from A, B, C, D, E, you will pay it before you leave.
And if you don't?
And if you don't, then good and fine. We will mortgage your family to pay the loan. That way, people...
I'm not going to mortgage anybody's family.
That way, people will be responsible for whatever they take. And also, before you take loans, just like you have your budget, the president read the budget. He told us, okay, we are expecting this percentage from oil, we're expecting this from internally generated revenue. Then to offset this, we are going to go borrowing for this. Now we know within ourselves, okay, to complete this, we are borrowing this. This is how it should be. And that should trickle not just from the president.
Loans are tied to projects.
Yes, that should trickle down to every single budget pronouncement and spending of government. Everyone should know.
All right, thank you. And I think you struck the chord there. We're borrowing, and the money that we are getting is project specific. Every project or every borrowing, every loan is tied to a project. And we must have institutional oversight functions performed effectively to make sure that not just only budget performance, but loans perform to the optimum so that we can get value for our money. Somebody told me once I was still in the university that just keep watching. China will soon be producing gari, the cassava flour, for us in Nigeria if we're not careful. Well, I pray we will not get to that point. This is where we draw the curtain in Just Africa. My name is Oyinpreye Krumale. Many thanks for watching.
And I am Olumide Sokoya. Enjoy the rest of your day.